Okay, next we're going to check out the envelope mouse modifiers in Reaper. Let's open up the mouse modifiers. And over here are the envelope lane, envelope point, and envelope segment mouse modifiers. Now to use these, we should create an envelope lane. So let's make this smaller, hit V for volume to create a lane. And this is our envelope lane. Right now it's for volume, but everything we do in this video will work with any parameter, like pan or mute, or the controls on plugins. So let's open it back up. And let's start with envelope lane. With this context, there's only left click. And the default is to deselect all envelope points and move the edit cursor. So if we create some envelope points, like this, if we click in the lane, it deselects them and moves the edit cursor. But we could change that to deselect all envelope points, but don't move the edit cursor. And if we choose that, or use the modifier, Option on Mac or Alt on PC, when these are all selected, if we click somewhere in the envelope lane, it deselects them, but it doesn't move the edit cursor. This stayed here. And again, that's the default when holding down Option on the Mac or Alt on the PC. But these are the only options that are available besides the action list. But with the action list, there's a lot to choose from. So let's choose delete points, and we could choose to deselect all selected points. Make it a default, and now, with these points all selected, just clicking in the envelope lane deletes them all, just the selected ones. Click here, it deletes them. This makes more sense when we use a modifier for it. So let's put these back, and reset them, and use Control for that. Choose our action list, delete points, delete all selected points, and now we can hold down Control on the Mac or Start on the PC and just click over here in the lane. It deletes all those points. It's a pretty cool option. And that's the envelope lane for left click. Let's reset this. And let's go to the next one, envelope point. This is what happens when we left drag our envelope points. By default, it's going to move the envelope point. So let's create some. Now if we drag a point, it's going to move it up or down, left or right. But again, we can change that. Besides moving it, we could move it ignoring snap. We could choose a fine adjustment, which is going to be a lot more fine tuning, moving up and down. Moves very slowly for a fine adjustment, but it just moves up and down, not left and right. So it's good for fine tuning the volume or the pan or any control or parameter. And by default, this works with Command and Option, or on the PC, it's Control and Alt. We could also choose in one direction only. And this is a bit more powerful because it decides the direction based on the first move you do. So if we go up and down, it only moves up and down, not left and right. But if we move left and right, it only moves left and right. So it's based on the first direction you move, either up and down or left and right, which is very useful for just changing the volume without changing the location. Just the up and down, or for changing the location without changing the volume, this way. But we could be more specific by choosing just horizontal or just vertical. And by default, it's going to move on one axis, holding down Shift and Command on the Mac or Shift and Control on the PC. We could also copy the envelope point. We could do it ignoring snap. And what that's going to do is if we drag this point, it makes a copy of that same value. Let's do it here. It's pretty handy for extending the same level or adding a new point. And we could do it ignoring snap, in one direction only, or horizontally. Next, we could freehand draw an envelope, which is the default, while holding down Command on the Mac or Control on PC. Go by a point, hold down the modifier, or in this case the default, and we could just draw. Just like that. And we could also delete the envelope point, which by default is right down here, holding down Option on the Mac or Alt on the PC. Go up to it and just click it. See how it turns into an X, and then it disappears. And those are the options for left drag. Let's put these back. But we also have double click. This is what's going to happen when we double click an envelope point. By default, it's going to reset that point to its default value. So if we double click right here, this point goes back to 0 dB. Now if we're in panning, it'll go back to the center, and all the other parameters will go back to their defaults as well. But again, we can change that. The other option is to open the envelope point editor, which by default is set to Command on Mac, Control on PC, right here. Double click it, it opens up this, where we can change the value to 4 dB, the position, the shape, or even the tension right here. Let's move this out of the way. So we can change this, and it changes it. Before, it was down here, and after, it's like this. But there's still another option. Once again, we could use the action list. But let's put these back to our default, and let's put an action under Control on Mac or Start on PC. Choose Action List, and this time, let's choose Invert Point. We could invert our selected points by holding down this modifier and double-clicking. So here's our envelope. If we want to invert it, hold down the modifier and double-click a point, it gets inverted. Do it again, it gets inverted again. Again, that's pretty handy. And that's the envelope points. Double-click and left drag. Next, we're going to check out the envelope segment mouse modifiers in Reaper. Let's go.